very stressful bringing deer into the pen under normal conditions, but when you have a 200-inch buck in there, it completely changes the game.
We don't get to see him up close. He's a wild deer. And so now that this pen is being brought up, it's almost like everybody's holding their breath to see this superstar.
Where's the buck at? Where's the buck at? This is Doug Roberts. He's raised some of the largest typical whitetails in North America. His farm produces the best hunting scents in the world. His life's quest is 200-inch typical whitetails. This is ConQuest 200.
Good morning. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Have a good day.
You too.
The life of a white-tailed deer is one of nature's true marvels. A miracle that Doug Roberts and his ConQuest team lay witness to on a daily basis. The time has come for the farm's newest additions to be separated from their mothers and begin their own journey. Once the fawns have weaned themselves, each must be tagged, vaccinated, and categorized. This not only helps Doug account for each of the whitetails on the farm, but also allows him to keep records of genetic lines, as well as an overall buck-to-doe ratio.
According to federal law, we have to have a federal ID tag in each animal on the farm, and then also a farm tag, so they get two identifications. The third thing that we're doing is we're actually pulling hair from the base of the tail, and that is getting sent in for DNA testing, so we can verify who the parents are, who the mom and dad is. And then we also have that on record that if, heaven forbid, a fence went down and a deer got out, we could prove that it was ours, even if the tags fell out of the ear.
I'm going to have you two go in and move pen 1. The back gate of pen 1's been open since last night, but you're going to have to get the fawns caught. Just get them over that corner, so you're going to have to check in the brush piles and stuff like that. Just be careful, take your time bringing them up. I'll be in here. I'll be listening. Are those radios working? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, over. Last time.
Try mine here. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Niner.
Having injured his back several days earlier, Doug will stay back while Nate and Talon herd the deer into the handling facility. This will be the first time the fawns have been outside of their pen. It is crucial that the team use extra caution while herding the young deer.
Go into pen 8 and swing up around the backside that way, because all there is does in there.
Nate and Talon are front lines of the farm. They are the hands, the eyes, the feet, the awareness of everything that's going on in this farm. Year in and year out, no matter what the weather, no matter what task has to be done, no matter what emergency arises, no matter if Doug is here or not, they are the front lines. It has become part of who they are as well. It's not just a job to them. And now that they have their own herd that they are starting, and they're bringing up their deer and their fawns, it's neat to see that they are getting their reward for all of their labor here.
The challenge in herding fawns is keeping them with their mothers. While the does have been herded before, the fawns have not, and leading them to the gate and into the runway can be extremely risky.
the fawn has no idea where you want it to go, and it's looking around, and it short circuits. It stops thinking and panics. And so you get them running around, you get them running into fences, you can get them where they just freeze and lay down and hide and won't move at all. Keep them headed towards the gate, but keep the fawns with the moms.
With his back out of commission, Doug can only hope that Nate and Talon take their time to ensure that all the deer arrive safely.
What's going on, Talon? Oh, battery's already dead.
I'm gonna have you two go in and move pen 1. The back gate of pen 1's been open since last night, but you're gonna have to get the fawns caught.
Dealing with an injured back, Doug Roberts relies on Nate and Talon to herd the deer from their pens and into the handling facility to be tagged and vaccinated. It's a long process, and attempting to herd fawns that have never been outside of the pens adds to the challenge.
Come September, the fawns are now adolescents. It's time to pull them from their moms and let them start their own journey. This happens in nature. Mothers have to kick their fawns off at some point so that they can replenish their body weight and sustain themselves through the winter. These fawns are now the next generation of the future on ConQuest Deer Farm.
Doug and his team will finally be able to get up close and personal with their new fawns and see the result of all their hard work over the past year.
The waiting process is actually very difficult and very time consuming. You AI, and then 200 to 210 days later you have the fawns. Then you have to keep those fawns alive.
Let's try to get some downer.
It's a very stressful process, but you're also having to tell yourself, be patient, because you're not going to understand the results of what you've done for about 3 years. Yes, you're going to see the deer as yearlings, and the bucks is what you really judge it by. But to really see what the potential is of that group is 3 years old. So you better have a lot of patience in the farming industry if you want to get into the breeding program, because it takes time.
Juggling the deer from pen to pen is not an exact science. Emptying a single pen of does and fawns may require 3 pens once they've been separated by age and gender.
What I'm thinking is we'll get all the does out of pen 1 and pen 4 into the holding stall, because it won't matter. We'll bring the yearling does up, and we can put all of these adults in pen 9, because they all got to be synchronized.
With such a small crew, Doug, Nate, and Talon must always be aware of what the other is doing. Multiple doors and chambers within the handling facility turn the tagging process into a puzzle requiring forethought, planning, and strategy.
2 or 3, Nate.
We got does and fawns up here. Let's bring all of them back in here. We have 2 fawns in that corner.
Okay. What do we got, Talon?
We have does. All those. Let them out.
Once we have the does sorted from the fawns, we'll let the does back out. Now as we work with the fawns, Nate will catch each one of them individually and hold on to it, while I go in and actually put the tags in their ears, we worm them, we vaccinate them, and then we pull hair for DNA.
Not quite.
Talon is actually handing me the syringes and the tags through the little opening in the door.
Buck fawn.
And then once we find out the sex of it, he goes back and he writes all of the information down on the envelope and a legal pad of who they are, what their tag numbers are, what their sex is, and then he seals that. So each one of us have a very specific process, and not one number can be written down incorrectly. Otherwise, the whole thing is invalid.
Why didn't that add up right?
We're going to put the does in the first big holding stall as we sort them. If he's calm, which he should be, Die Hard has not been one to go stupid, we'll put the fawns up here and we'll run him back out to pen 1. Die Hard.
Doug Roberts and his ConQuest team are herding their deer into the handling facility to be tagged, vaccinated, and to collect fawn DNA for genetic testing, which will allow Doug to find out if the fawns born were from a successful artificial insemination or whether they were bred by the pen's backup buck.
We do the what we call weaning process, tagging process, and DNA process. We do every single year. It always happens in September. September is our weaning month, but we also have to kind of balance it with the temperatures. If it's too warm, we kind of wait till the end of the month. If it's cool at the beginning, we do it as quick as we can, because it helps us set up the breeding pens for the coming fall, which has to be started end of October into November.
The backup bucks on ConQuest Deer Farm play an essential role. Triton, Die Hard, and Duke are just a few of the 200-inch typical whitetails chosen by Doug for the breeding program.
Usually when it comes to having bucks in with the does and the fawns, I'm usually the one going because that's when it can get real tense. But with my back screwed up, they got to learn too, so this is a good time for them. Both the bucks, Die Hard and Triton, should be calm, but they're a year older, so it could change.
It's very stressful bringing deer into the pen under normal conditions, but when you have a 200-inch buck in there, it completely changes the game. We have some 90-degree corners on the runway, so coming around those corners on the four-wheeler, you have no idea if that buck is headed into the barn, coming back at you, ready to run you over. And there's also the stress that they're under of being in an unfamiliar place. They could actually turn on the does and also the fawns that are in the runway with them. So you kind of have to prepare for all these scenarios, as well as read the deer as they're going into the barn, make sure they're all headed in the right direction.
Where's the buck at? Where's the buck at? Where's the buck at? Thank you.
The buck called Die Hard has special meaning to all of us here. We all invested so much emotion and time and effort into the life of this deer. He's not a yearling anymore. He's not a 2-year-old struggling to survive and live. He is a full-grown, mature buck. we don't get to see him up close. He's a wild deer. You see him through binoculars. We see him if we're out doing chores, and you see him from a distance, but we don't actually get to see him up close. And so now that this pen is being brought up, it's almost like everybody's holding their breath to see this superstar or this being that has defeated all odds of death.
It's always amazing to see one of the bigger breeder bucks in the facility because you're within feet of them. But with Die Hard, it was unique because Die Hard's been in this facility extremely sick. And during that time, honestly, I was so worried about his health and his condition, I never really paid attention to his antlers. It was just keeping the deer alive. But now that he's healthy and he's coming in with a new set of antlers, just to be able to look at him within 3-4 feet, I'm extremely happy with what he grew on his head for what he went through a year prior.
Today, Nate and Talon are herding their newly established deer herd into the handling facility to be tagged and vaccinated. Doug gave each of them their own doe and allowed them to choose the strand of semen for artificial insemination.
Doug and I have been talking about what I want to AI my doe with, or do I want to do natural breeding. You know, it took me weeks to figure out what do I really want to do and narrow it down to, do I want this buck or do I want this buck? And Doug came to me and said that he had one straw left of Hoosier, which back in the day was my favorite buck, and to have that opportunity was awesome.
This is the beginning of their deer farming life. They now have ownership, but they also have ownership of the problems. They have ownership of the expenses. They have ownership of the potential of death. We got 4 of them.
The guys had a decision to make. They had to create their own genetic line, and now they get to touch it. It's real, it's here, and they got to connect with it. I'm so happy for them. To be able to hold their own deer and see them up close, it's not just an idea anymore. It's not just a genetic flowchart anymore. This is a living being animal that belongs to them.
Everybody, chicken fawn.
Once all of the fawns on ConQuest Deer Farm have been tagged and vaccinated, Doug Roberts must send the collected hair follicles for DNA testing.
I will take these and get them recorded into the computer.
I figured out what sex my fawns are, but what I don't know is if the Hoosier AI took or not. So what we have to do is send the hair sample in and have it tested to see what genetic line it came out of.
Breeding 200-inch typical whitetails is an intricate process. Even the best laid plans don't always lead to the desired results.
When I got that DNA back and the results back, I was kind of like, uh-oh. You know, Talons did not catch the Hoosier, and that was the last Hoosier straw.
Once a doe has been bred, all Doug, Nate, and Talon can do is hope.
We have all the parentage on them too.
Both of them were definitely bummed, disappointed, but it still gave them a very solid base of fawns to start the building blocks of typical to move forward this coming fall.
For Doug Roberts, the ability to witness the culmination of years of patience and planning is worth all of the hard work. With every sunrise comes a new appreciation of his whitetail herd. Every sunset brings a feeling of accomplishment and hope. Knowing that his genetic lines are healthy and thriving make the rigorous daily tasks well worth it. And seeing this new generation of deer grow day by day builds high hopes for the future.